Hello everybody. This one's going to be a slightly different video from what I usually do. Um, this video is going to be something that, it's a tool that I want to highlight for the art community. Now, I know a lot of people who are quasi-familiar with the art modding tools, and they kind of do a so-so job. Or sometimes you have a map that you love playing with that for some reason never gets finished. There's a lot of them out there, and very few of them ever get pulled off Steam. So one of the really awesome tools that I've been playing around with since I saw it featured on the Arc Spotlight about a week ago is something called Simple Spawners. What Simple Spawners do is it gives you the tools to create spawns, resource spawns, creature spawns, and asset spawns into a map. So what I've done here is I've used the player-generated Arc tool in Arc, and let me fly up and give you guys an idea of the size of the map that I created. This map is going to be available off my server. I might post the actual settings inside the player Arc creator, so you can create the map yourself and tool around with these tools yourself. This is what I call Tauron. It's foggy right now, so it's in the middle of a heat wave. It's basically the size of the island. It has a diverse set of terrain. There's open water. What I did was I created this map. I uploaded it to my survival server. Again, I'm not endorsing them. I'm not promoting anybody. I just love their service. Uploaded it to my survival server and then used their dashboard to remove 90% of the spawns. There's some issue with PG arcs. I get the extinction dinos and moss chops for some reason keep popping up on the map. I think they've been renamed somehow, and it just isn't something in their dashboard that's been changed. But as you see, you get a distinct map, plenty of space. I mean, this is island size, so you can host easily 60 people on here. But my thing with maps is I've always been frustrated with the way people do spawns. Sometimes they just don't seem natural, they don't make sense. I hate being trolled by predators, and sometimes you just want a map that's fun to play on. Which means you don't want the risk, and you don't want to be chronically trolled by compies or overpowered dinosaurs that are going to kill you all the time. Everybody has that issue. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to spotlight just the simple creativity that Simple Spawners gives you. So one of the things I like doing is creating swamp areas. But the swamp areas that are created usually with most of the Arc tools are troll zones. You get beaten up by bats and everything. You have no control over what spawns in the area, really. It's basically up to the whims of whoever created the map. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to use the different Simple Spawner tools to create a swamp. Now, Simple Spawners has spawners that do just base creatures, alpha creatures, aberration creatures, scorched earth creatures, Ragnarok creatures, marine creatures, simple simple resources like rare flowers, rocks, bushes. Kind of get the gist. There's also wyvern spawners, boss creature spawners, which I might highlight, but for now, I'm just going to take this area here and create a swamp. I did this on another side of the map, but unfortunately running around with fly takes forever. So I'm going to do it here and just spotlight what you can do. So let's get ourselves back down on the ground. And if anybody out there knows a way to make fly go faster, please let me know. Alright, so now we're going to go back in and walk on the ground. See, unfortunately they're really well designed, but I really wish I didn't have them on my map. They kind of kill my immersion. But anyway, so over here on my hotbar, over on number 1, I have the Simple Spawners base creature spawners. So I'm going to put one of those out and drop it. So you give it a second to load because it loads all the assets that it pulls from. Then we're going to go ahead and go into settings. Now in here, you have a whole different ton of options. options to pick up, destroy wild creatures, count the number of creatures in a radius, force the creatures to spawn. Then you can control the max number of creatures within the radius of the device, how many creatures per spawn type spawn, how long they spawn in between being killed, the actual radius. You can control the creature levels, the number of creatures, the baby chance, and there's other advanced options that you can tool around with. So for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this one back up because I want to do the asset spawner first. So that one is on my 6 bar. Alright, so we're going to let this sucker load. And we're going to go into settings. Oh, I'm in settings. Where's the resources? Oh, open settings. Jesus Christ. Okay, so I'm going to be doing a swamp. So under here, I'm going to use swamp trees. And over here, you can change the harvest multiplier for how much product harvest is. I control it on my own server, but you can use this without server tools to actually create this. Now, how many of these do I want to spawn? Well, I like a high number of swamp trees because it's going to be a swamp, so I'm setting it to 45. And you can also control variance on this. Most of them are just default. Most of them are just default options, but you can change them if they have different forms of resource, or like, you know, there's 3 different type of trees that all fall in the desert. You can control them. All right, so I did swamp trees. I'm going to do fungal trees, which are the really tall mushrooms. And I'll set those to 40. Miscellaneous trees was the other one that I thought looked really cool in swamps, so we're going to add that one. I'm going to set that one to a slightly lower amount. Then we have mushrooms. Now this is the one where if you go over to here, you have regular mushrooms, bioluminescent mushrooms from the aberration expansion pack, or radiation mushrooms, the ones that secrete radiation from the aberration pack as well. So for this, I'm going to do the bioluminescence. And I have one more option, so I think we'll throw some plant species Y in there. And I think we'll put those around 15. Alright, so the spawn radius, I'm going to set it to probably double what it is. So let's do 25 for now. I don't remember exactly how big that looks around here. And the idea is to cluster it so I have a tight-knit swamp. And I'm going to cut the respawn time down to 1 minute. And then we're going to hit apply. And we're going to hit save. Now I'm going to go into the settings and I'm going to force spawn everything. Now, like I said, there's a lot of trial and error that goes into this. Let's see what this looks like from above. Yeah, now as you see, that kind of spread it out a bit more than it needed to be. So I'm going to cut down the radius because, well, I don't need to swamp all the way out there. Alright, so let's go ahead and change the radius on this. Alright, let's cut the radius down to 15. Let's go ahead and destroy all the assets. And let's go ahead and force spawn them again. Okay, so that's a little better. Let's pull out so I can give you guys a better idea. Still a bit large on the radius. And I think we might limit the number of assets in there and drop a different spawner. It's tightening up, but it's still... yeah, it's still... the radius is still a bit large. And again, a lot of this is trial and error. Just chronically changing the way stuff spawns to get it to look the way you want to. So let's go ahead and go down and try this a little differently. I think what we're going to do is, let's go back in. I'm going to destroy resources and radius. We're going to go into settings. I'm going to cut the radius down to 10. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to change this one out for swamp trees. For the fungal trees. I'm going to remove the mushrooms for more swamp trees. Alright, let's see what this does. Now that's closer to what I'm looking for. Getting that swamp aesthetic is really important for a swamp, of course. Now the radius itself is still a bit large, and unfortunately, I threw in those conifer trees. Yes, these are the ones that fall under the miscellaneous trees. I did that by mistake. They're conifers. They really should be listed under the redwoods. Again, this is a mod that's a work in progress, so there will be iterations on this. Alright, so we're going to go and tool with this a little more. The fun part is the trial and error, and getting it to look exactly the way you like it. Alright, so let's go ahead and change the radius. Let's do 5. And we're taking out the miscellaneous tree, it's going to be fungal tree. We're going to take that out and do mushrooms. And that'll get the luminescent mushrooms. Alright. Apply, save. Let's see what we get on this one. It's denser. That's a good sign. Now I could probably open up the radius on this a tiny bit and maybe reduce the number of trees. But that's definitely better. Alright, so I'm going to open up the radius a tiny bit and cut back on the number of trees per spawner and see what we get out of that. Alright, so we're going to open up the radius to 7. I'm going to cut down the number of swamp trees per spawn element. Alright, let's see what we get on this one. Alright, that cleaned up the density a little bit. And that's the radius that I wanted, so that's a good sign. Now, as you can see too, the density that you play with gives you a much more natural look. So as you see here, as I pull out, it's much more three-dimensional. A lot of people that make maps have a problem understanding the natural disbursement of plants and assets. It's something that you see on a lot of player-created ARC maps. Even when they use procedurally generated asset distribution, it still just doesn't look right. So I'm probably going to up the swamp trees a tiny bit. But I'm definitely liking the way this looks. And once I get the tree assets down, I'm going to show you the creature spawners. And one of the cool things is all the aberrant creatures glow in the dark. So they're excellent to use in swamps, and you have access to those variants through the aberration spawner. So let's go in here. I want to up the swamp trees a tiny bit. Let's see, swamp trees. Let's up this one to 10 just to see what that does. We're gonna up the mushrooms a tiny bit. All right. Let's go ahead and destroy resources and redeploy. Now, like I said, there is a degree of trial and error with this. Getting it down to look the way you want. That's not as dense as I wanted it. So let's go ahead and maybe regenerate it again and see what happens. As you see here, you got the bioluminescent mushrooms that are spawning. These are excellent because they glow in the dark and they're harvestable. You got the default mushrooms that you see on a lot of the ARC maps. You got your swamp trees, your giant fungus trees. Alright, so let me just double check. Let's destroy resources. Let's go in settings. Probably dropped the trees down too far, so let's throw these up to 30. Leave the fungal trees where they're at. Let's give this one more good go. There we go. That's the density we were looking for. What I might want to do is open spawn radius a tiny bit. Although, actually, this looks about right. Actually, yeah. This is probably what I was looking for. Oh, yeah, yeah. This is what I was looking for. Let's head a little bit further out across the cove and give you guys a better idea of what this looks like from far away. So you got that nice level of density. I think I'm going to push the boundary out just a tiny bit. Just so it eclipses more of the sandbar out here. Alright, so go ahead and despawn all that stuff one more time. And let's go ahead and pump the radius out a tiny bit. We're at 7, let's go to 9. And I think that might have done it. Might have pushed it out a bit too far. Pull it in a tiny bit. Like I said, it's a bit of trial and error, especially if you're dealing with a map that's fairly empty of assets. But the trial and error is a good thing because it gives you more control. And it gives you it uses the randomization to give you the aesthetics that you want to. Alright, so we're going to despawn this one more time. And I'm going to go in and drop that back to 8. This might be the final one. It's actually not bad. I think what I might do is center it, move the spawner a little further back. Actually, further out. Alright, so let's do this. So I'm going to go out to here. And go ahead and drop it again. Alright, so we're going to tool this up one more time. And then we're going to do swamp trees. Swamp trees. Fungal trees. Mushrooms. Jungle trees. Let's try that. Alright, so swamp trees are going to get 20. Jungle trees are going to get 10. Jungle trees are going to get 10. Mushrooms are going to get 35. I'm going to run that radius at 9. 1 minute spawn. The mushrooms are going to be with bioluminescence. 5. Save. It's a little better. It needs to be tighter on its radius. Probably what's doing the end. So let's go ahead and shrink that radius down. Alright. That's a bit tighter on the radius than I probably need. Go out a tiny bit more. This is one of the other things you have to be careful with too, is unfortunately sometimes it spawns stuff on top of the spawner itself. I need the cheat code to destroy targets. Hold on just a sec. Sorry about that, guys. Let's destroy my target. Or maybe not. Oh. There we go. Alright. So... and let's give it a try again. Alright. As you see, you get this nice bioluminescence at night, which is really cool. It's very atmospheric, and I think I finally got my radius down. Might open it up a tiny bit more. Maybe I should move the spawner itself out. Yeah, let's pick up the spawner one more time. But as you see, you got that nice atmospheric look that sometimes you just don't get out of handmade maps. It takes a lot of artistic talent to understand the placement of items that some people just don't have the flair for. So, let's move this a little bit more. Alright. I'm gonna go all the way out here. Alright. Let's do this one more time. Let it load the assets. Alright. Let's do swamp trees, jungle trees, fungal trees, mushrooms, ferret those check to 40, fungal trees are going to 10. Jungle tree is going to 10. Spawn radius is going to drop to 7. 1 minute. Apply and save. And let's give it a test. Now, it's hard to see at night how good I got my disbursement, but now I've encompassed most of the sandbar. Which is what I wanted to do in the first place. Maybe pull back the diameter a tiny bit more? Actually, I know what I want to do. Let's do this. Alright, I'm going to up the swamp trees, pull back the diameter by 1. And let's get a good look at that. This is actually one of the cooler times to look at this, is right around dawn. Alright, so that is kind of what I was looking for. That is actually quite about where I wanted it. You still got the exposed sandbar. As we got the sun coming up, we're going to get an idea of exactly how much sandbar I encompassed with this. Might have to go out a tiny bit more on the radius, but maybe not. Actually, that looks quite good, at least from my standpoint. Everybody has their own idea of the way things should look. I actually think this looks pretty damn good. Alright, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to show you guys the cool thing about these things too is you don't want it obvious that there's a spawner out here, so you go into the menu, and you can go into disguise, and you have all sorts of options. So this one I'm going to try to hide as sand. Voila. Little patch of sand, barely noticeable. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a creature spawner. So I'm going to come out here. I think we're going to put it over here so they actually spawn tighter knit than usual. I'll also make the actual spawner tight too. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do the aberration spawner. So that's 3 on my taskbar. And here's what the aberration spawner looks like. And we're going to go in, and we're going to go into creatures. Now the creatures are set up alphabetically. There's a separate spawner for alpha creatures if you want them. Alright, so we're going to go for Quintas, which are snails. Ariano, which are those spiders? Yeah, those are spiders. Beelzebufos, which are frogs. Dimorphodons, which are like, they're not bats, but they're flying creatures. Then we're going to go in here. We're going to do glow bugs. Meganuras are the bats, I believe. Parasaurs. Some Lunoscorpius are the scorpions. Wait. So hopefully I got this right the first time. We'll find out. I think that's all I wanted in here. I'm not going to do snakes in this one. At least not until I'm sure about this. Alright, so let's do max creatures in radius of 12. Creature spawns per, let's do 3. Time interval is 1 minute. I'm going to make the spawn radius less. We're going to make it like 7, 6. Alright. And let's do a creature spawn and see what happens. Alright, so I'm going to hover out here and get an idea of what spawns. I already saw, yep. There's the little winged creatures, the Dimorphodons. There's a scorpion. There's another scorpion. Oh, yeah. I put in the mosquitoes instead, which is a no-no. I can't stand them. So we'll go in and fix that. There's the spiders. Do I have frogs? Where are my frogs? There's the dynamorphons. Trying to see if I got my frogs to spawn. Good thing about the scorpions is they're OP, so are the spiders, to a degree. So they kind of get rid of a lot of my unwanted spawns that I can't get off my map. And I think that was my frog spawns. Yep, there's my frogs. Okay, so I need to go in and take out the Arthropolaria. Okay, so let's fix this. Let's see. Is it the Ariano? Or is it the Meganor? It might be the Meganor. Alright, so let's do this again. Let's see what we get. There's the Dimorphs. That I believe might have been a frog. Let's take a look. There's our glow bugs. There's my froggy. You have to forgive me with being rusty with the Arc creature descriptors. I'm admittedly shitty with them. What I might do out here is throw some vultures in. Just for the hell of it. What do I have running around up here? Alright, there's my spider. Ugh. Creepy ass freaking things. What is running around up here? The frog. I think I want to put... Do I want to put bats out here, or do I want to put... I think I'll put vultures out here. I put bats in the other swamps, so let's do vultures out here. That kind of works really good. I'm actually very impressed. Oh, there's a snail. So I know my snails are spawning. Poor snail. And let's hide this sucker. Okay, so we're going to go out here, and we're going to do a Scorched Earth spawner. Please tell me they're not following me. Back off, guys. Come on. I might have to kill you all. Yeah, I think for the sake of not being trolled, I'm going to kill them all. Just so I have time to do this. Vicious. Alright, so I'm going to go out here, and I'm going to drop a Scorched Earth spawner. Just want vultures. Because vultures add a nice little touch. Make it a little different, so you have to hunt around to get different creatures. Let's go into creatures. Vulture. Settings. Next creatures, we'll do 2. Creature spawns 2 times 1. Radius, I'm going to cut the radius back way back. So they spawn tight in here. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and force spawn these guys. And there's our vultures. So there you go. Between the use of regular assets and creatures, I created a swamp in a matter of minutes. Something that, using the ArcDev kit and spawn commands and all other sets of things, could probably take you hours to do. Here I use a base map with simple spawners and create a playable map within minutes. So if you like this, please put a like, a subscribe, and a follow on this video. Tool around with it yourself. I will publish a link to my server once I'm finished tooling around with it. Please feel free to join. Thank you.